Hi guys, welcome and thanks for joining today's lesson online. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and I miss you all. Look forward to seeing you again when this whole COVID thing's over. Today we're looking at how to paint a wave. So this is quite a simple lesson. It looks complicated, but actually you'll find it's just a few colors. So two greens, two blues, white, and a bit of purple. And we're just doing some practices today, so you might do several copies like I did. Just trying to get the hang of how to get the sense of the sunlight coming into the wave, which gives it that sort of illuminated look with the green and then the blue of the sea. A lot of it's tonal, so some bits are light, some bits are dark, and then we've got the foam, which is quite light on the water, but gets a little bit of a purple shadow on the wave itself. So just a few things to look at. Next week, when we've practiced this a few times on the paper, this week is actually this paper here, the acrylic pad. We'll take what we learned this week and we'll apply it on a canvas and we'll paint a whole beach scene. Anyway, let's get started. I hope you really enjoyed this lesson. I think it's a pretty fun activity. Just follow along as best you can. You don't have to be exactly the same as what I do. It's just a guideline. If you're somewhere in the ballpark of what I do, you'll get there for sure, and I think you'll get a nice result. Enjoy. Let's start with our colours. We've got a dark blue, a light blue, dark green, light green, and a purple and a white to begin with. These colours will be in your Create Joy pack, which you can order online from Art Priest Projects. If you don't have those, don't worry, you can find them in the art supply shop anyway. So we're starting off with just the light blue, the light green, and the dark green, and some white. We're mixing them together in all different combinations. Blue and the green, the white. So to begin with, we're going to make a really light green. We're going to make a big blob in the shape of an oval about 2/3 of the way up the page, and then give it a bit of a tail going over to one side, and then slowly just kind of smudge it or blend it down. And as we go, we're going to start to make a darker shadow around the bottom of the wave. The light's going to represent the sunlight coming into the wave, and then we mix a little bit of the light blue in there with it as well, and then a bit of the darker green. That gives it the sort of shadow effect, as if there's a shadow under the wave. Then little bit by little bit, we mix a darker and darker color with the light blue. Well, it's more of a mid-tone blue. It's the cobalt blue from your Create Joy art pack. Notice that I'm being careful, even though I'm adding shadows in the bottom part, I'm also being really careful to preserve the light in the wave itself. So to do that and to not spread the colors everywhere, it's important to clean your brush very regularly, especially if you're going to go back up into the light bit and touch that. Also notice that I don't blend up into the light, I kind of blend away from the light. So I don't bring the dark colors into the light, I tend to smudge the light outwards. Towards the end, I start to follow the contour of the wave. Okay, so now I'm adding the purple and the dark blue and white together on one part of my palette. So I'm painting a kind of like an escarpment, or maybe it's an island or something in the distance there, using this purple and blue mixed together. It makes a kind of violet color. Also up on the top of the wave. And then for the sea itself, I kind of add the purple, the green, and the blue together, and I get this sort of greyish blue color because the purple tends to make it a little bit greyer when you mix it with the green. It makes a kind of dirty color, but it's really useful. Again, I redefine a bit of the shadows down the bottom of the wave, and then back to blending, but still being really, really careful not to blend up into the light, but to keep the lights light. The sky, I've painted the sky there with a bit of the cobalt blue, which is the lighter blue, and a touch of green, and quite a lot of white. So every time I blend it, I might find, maybe need to put some of the shadows back in to give the thing a bit more definition. It gets quite blurry, but that's great. In the end, it's fairly blurry and a little bit dry, not too dry, but a little bit. So that allows me to come back over with some of these violets and purples and
mix with the white and create a sort of a shadow color. So on the face of the wave, when you're painting this kind of lacy, dancing kind of a line, it's more of a violet with white rather than just white itself. You need to preserve the white for the last minute, like for the really, really sparkly bits. To do the shadows on the whites, fairly purpley. You can even add a touch of green in there if you want, but I've just used the purple and ultramarine blue, which is the dark blue. Now, if you want to cut back into the purples and get a bit more definition around the edges, you can come back with the greens. I've got the dark greens and the light greens. A bit of shadow underneath that lip there. That's going to make it pop forward a bit. And on this crashing wave on the left-hand side. So it's a bit of a game of push and pull. Sometimes we need to pull out a bit of definition, so we add a little bit more contrast and sharper edges, and then sometimes we've overdone it, like I have here, and I want to smudge it back in, or I want to try and get some kind of random effect, so I'm using the edge of my brush. It's gotten a little bit drier now, so I can get these nice fluffy edges. It looks like the wind carrying the water backwards. Unfortunately, what I do now is I come and stuff it up and paint over it. The advantage of that is obviously it pushes the wave lip forward by the contrast, so it seems a lot more 3D suddenly. But yeah, I did like that effect. I probably should have come back and done that a bit later on when it was drier. You need the background to be a bit drier to get that sort of fluffy effect, spray effect. Anyway, so here I am. I'm coming back in with a smaller brush, and I'm just kind of cutting into that purple sort of lace pattern that's following up the contour of the wave. And it's just thinning out those little lines there. And that's it. This is it. Photographed in the sunlight. The colors pop out a little bit more. And this one's a practice for next week. Hopefully you've got your Create Joy pack. If you don't, you can always order it online. It'll have all the materials that you need for this series of projects. I hope you've enjoyed the project, and look forward to seeing you next time. So next time we'll be using what we've learned today to create a bigger picture on the large canvas that's come in your pack. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great week.